Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Guru, the channel where we break down the biggest developments, rumors, facts, and forward-looking signals surrounding the Iraqi dinar, global currency resets, and the financial shifts that could change lives. And today's video is one that has electrified the entire dinar community, because the buzz around a possible Iraqi Dinar RV shock on December 29 has reached a level we simply cannot ignore. With whispers turning into loud conversations across banking circles, regional economic news, social platforms, and private financial groups, all asking the same question with growing urgency. Could this finally be your millionaire moment? The turning point that dinar holders have waited years, sometimes decades, to witness. And as always here on Iraqi Dinar Guru, we are not here to sell hype blindly, but to connect dots, analyze patterns, separate emotional noise from economic signals, and give you a grounded yet hopeful perspective on what may be unfolding right now. To understand why December 29 has become such a powerful focal point, we need to step back and recognize how unusual the current global and regional conditions are. Because Iraq today is not the Iraq of 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, as the country has quietly but steadily rebuilt key pillars of its financial system, strengthened its central banking framework, increased oil production capacity, reduced certain forms of corruption through digitization, and reconnected itself to international financial networks in ways that were previously impossible. And when currencies revalue or significantly adjust, it is rarely because of a single announcement, but rather because of a long sequence of preparatory moves that finally reach critical mass, much like pressure building behind a dam until the gates open. In recent weeks, we have seen an acceleration of signals that many long-time watchers consider prerequisites for any meaningful RV, including tighter currency controls, increased enforcement against dollar smuggling, public emphasis on strengthening the dinar internally, and growing coordination between Iraq's central bank, regional banks, and international financial institutions, all of which suggest that Iraq is positioning itself not as a fragile post-conflict economy, but as a sovereign financial player demanding respect for its national currency. December 29 is especially interesting because it sits at a crossroads of timing, as it aligns with end-of-year financial settlements, accounting closures, and strategic resets that governments and banks often use to implement changes with maximum efficiency and minimum disruption. And while no official source has yet confirmed a specific RV date, history shows us that major monetary moves are almost never pre-announced to the public in clear language, because doing so would invite speculation, arbitrage, and instability. So instead, we see hints, policy language shifts, regulatory actions, and subtle statements that only make sense when viewed together. One of the most compelling factors fueling the current excitement is Iraq's renewed push to reduce reliance on the US dollar in domestic transactions, a move that is not symbolic but structural, because when a country forces its economy to operate more heavily on its own currency, it must ensure that currency can function as a reliable store of value, unit of account, and medium of exchange. And that naturally leads to pressure for adjustment, strengthening, or revaluation, especially when inflation management and public confidence are on the line. At the same time, Iraq's oil revenues remain strong, and oil is still priced globally in dollars, meaning Iraq continues to accumulate substantial foreign reserves. And those reserves are the backbone of any credible currency valuation, because no central bank can defend or elevate its currency without reserves to back it. And recent reports indicate that Iraq's reserves are at levels that give policymakers far more flexibility than in the past. Now let's talk directly to the heart of the matter, the question that brought many of you here today. Could this be your millionaire moment? And while it's important to stay realistic and responsible, it's also fair to acknowledge why so many people feel this moment is different. Because unlike past cycles of hype that were driven largely by rumors alone, today's environment includes tangible reforms, measurable financial data, geopolitical shifts, and a broader global conversation about currency realignment, de-dollarization, and regional economic independence, all of which place Iraq in a unique position as a resource-rich nation with a historically undervalued currency. The idea of an RV shock implies not just a gradual crawl upward, but a sudden and significant adjustment that catches markets off guard. And while that may sound dramatic, It is not without precedent in global financial history, as we have seen countries implement overnight revaluations or currency regime changes when conditions demanded swift action, particularly when confidence needed to be restored quickly or when parallel markets threatened monetary stability. December 29 speculation also ties into the psychology of timing, because the end of the year represents closure, balance, and transition, and governments often prefer to start a new fiscal year with a clean slate, rather than carrying unresolved monetary distortions forward, which makes late December a logical window for bold moves, even if those moves are framed later as technical adjustments rather than headline-grabbing revaluations. Here on Iraqi Dinar Guru, we also pay close attention to what is not being said, and recently there has been a noticeable reduction in outright dismissal of RV discussions from certain official voices, replaced instead by carefully neutral language emphasizing currency, strengthening, stability, and confidence, terms that may sound boring on the surface but are loaded with meaning in central bank communication, because they often signal preparation rather than denial. Another layer to consider is the regional context, as neighboring countries are adjusting their own economic strategies, trade agreements, and currency relationships, and Iraq cannot afford to remain misaligned if it wants to attract foreign investment, expand trade partnerships, and position itself as a financial bridge between East and West, which again brings us back to the dinar's role as both a symbol and a tool of sovereignty. For long-term holders, this moment is emotionally charged, because it represents not just potential financial gain, but validation after years of patience, skepticism from others, and personal belief in a vision that often felt distant. And while emotions should never replace analysis, they are part of the human side of this journey, and it's okay to acknowledge that excitement while staying grounded. It's also important to remind everyone that even if a significant move were to occur, outcomes will vary depending on timing, access, regulations, and individual circumstances. And no scenario is ever as simple as instant wealth for everyone, which is why preparation, education, and calm decision-making matter just as much as the event itself. If December 29 passes without the shock many are anticipating, that does not automatically invalidate the broader trajectory, because monetary transformations are rarely linear, and delays, adjustments, and phased implementations are common, especially in complex economies like Iraq. But the fact that this date has captured so much attention tells us something meaningful about the convergence of signals we are seeing right now. On Iraqi Dinar Guru, our role is not to promise outcomes, but to help you stay informed, aware, and mentally prepared for multiple possibilities, whether that means an RV shock, a managed appreciation, or continued groundwork leading into the new year. And regardless of what happens on any single day, the bigger story is that Iraq is actively reshaping its financial future, and the dinar is central to that story. As we move forward, keep watching official actions more than unofficial noise. Watch policy changes more than social media excitement. And remember that patience and perspective are powerful assets in any financial journey, because moments that change lives often arrive quietly, disguised as technical adjustments or routine announcements, and only later are recognized for what they truly were. December 29 may or may not be the day history marks as the dinar's turning point, but the conditions surrounding it suggest that we are closer than ever to a meaningful chapter change. And for those who have stayed the course, educated themselves, and managed their expectations wisely, the coming period could indeed hold opportunities that once seemed impossible. So stay calm, stay informed, and stay connected right here with Iraqi Dinar Guru, where we will continue to analyze every signal, every shift, and every development with clarity, balance, and respect for both hope and reality. Money bomb.